Hey, what's going on, film fans? It is Brad from Let's Be Real with Brad, and I have not made a video since Bad Boys Ride or Die that came out in the middle of June, or I think the beginning of June. That's how long it has been. This has been a really rough year for me in terms of creating video content for you guys, as I've been still going to the movies, being a movie nerd like I always do, but just not getting the videos out for you guys. There's a lot of new changes I'm going to be making to the channel that I'm going to be talking about in depth in a video, so be sure to stick around for that. But the reason why you clicked on this video is for me to talk about my favorite movies of the year so far in 2024, so let's just get right into it. At number 10, I have The Fall Guy, as directed by David Leitch, as it stars Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt. This was a really entertaining and super fun movie that I also thought was hilarious. It had great pacing, great action, and I thought this was a really enjoyable blockbuster film that I think anybody can enjoy. But unfortunately, this film flopped at the box office, which is so disappointing because I thought this movie was going to be a certified hit, especially with Ryan Gosling coming off of Barbie, which was one of the biggest movies of all time, and his Academy Award nominated performance along with Emily Blunt, who was one of the biggest stars in the industry. I hope this movie does find its audience because I did think this was a really enjoyable, well-made, well-shot, well-put-together movie. At number 9, I have A Quiet Place Day One, which came out a couple weeks ago, and I did not review on the channel, unfortunately. I thought this was a great follow-up to the Quiet Place films, as I think this film explores what happens on day one of the virus and the monsters, even though most of this movie happens on day 2, day 3, if we're being technical here. I thought that was one of the best aspects about it, where you have Lupita Nyong'o and Joseph Quinn, who are these random people in New York when this crazy monster attack happens, and I found this movie to be really compelling, and I love how this film is able to be so disturbing and uncomfortable without forcing unnecessary and stupid jump scares that happen in so many modern day horror films. This movie takes its time and it feels like it matters. I really enjoy Lupita Nyong'o's character, as her performance was great, but I also love the simplicity of her character, and you root for her the entire film, and I felt all of the emotions that she was feeling in this film. I thought this was a really good prequel film, which we don't get a lot of days, but there is another prequel that does show up later in this list. At number 8, I have Monkey Man, that is directed by Dev Patel in his directorial debut, as this is a film that was not supposed to be finished, as this movie was made during the COVID-19 pandemic, and then this movie got shut down and they didn't have enough funds to get this movie going, but Jordan Peele and his production company Monkey Paw was able to get some of the funding, get this movie back into shape, and this was one of the best action movies I have seen this year, as I thought this was also one of the most genuinely made movies I have seen this year, as Dev Patel puts his heart and soul into this film with this gritty, bloody, all over the place type of action thriller. And Dev Patel is a really good actor, and if you didn't know by now, you should know with this film, because he absolutely knocked this performance out of the park with being able to do all of the stunts and the choreography while actually getting injured and breaking his hand. The film has a great pace, it's extremely violent, the cinematography is excellent, the sound design is really damn good. This is one of those films that you definitely need to go out of your way and check this film out, because it wasn't the biggest hit in cinemas, but I do feel this movie is going to get a major audience in the years to come, and Dev Patel is a big star if you didn't already know it. At number 7, we have the biggest film of the year so far in terms of box office, and that is Inside Out 2, which is the follow-up sequel to Inside Out, which I think is one of the best animated films I have ever seen. And when I heard that Disney and Pixar were going to make a sequel to Inside Out, I was hesitant because you're not having Pete Docter, who directed the original film, direct this one. It has everything that I loved about that first film, with being so genuinely made, heartfelt, emotional, and like the characters themselves, they're based on emotions, and they're able to explore the life of Riley when she hits puberty, and you have these new emotions like anxiety that arrive that definitely hit very deeply with me, because I do have an anxiety disorder that I've talked a little bit here on the channel, and why it is so difficult for me to make videos on the channel, because it can be so deprecating to me. And being able to see that in the character of Riley as a 13-year-old, those similar instances of feeling that anxiety and not feeling like you're good enough and feeling like everything is just falling down on you all at once is a true feeling. And I think this movie handled the character anxiety so well, and this movie did manage to make me cry once again, as it did the first film. I'm not ashamed to admit it. This was a really well made, well put together film with beautiful animation, beautiful colors, and it is also really funny as well. Maybe not as funny as the first movie, but I still found this to be one of the best Pixar sequels that we have had in quite some time, and it's so good to see Pixar back on top. At number 6, we have A24's most expensive film to date, which is Civil War, which I thought was great, as this movie has so much to say without actually saying it. And that is one of the best aspects about this film, is the writing, as this was written and directed by Alex Garland, who I think is a really underrated director. And I mean, everyone loves him as a writer, but he hasn't directed a lot of films. With the films that he has directed, he has always made these films to be so fascinating and interesting, and exploring these very interesting concepts that actually make you think. And so in terms of Civil War, it was a really fascinating film to watch, especially with so much history that has been happening in America, and with the presidential election that's happening in November. This movie felt very spicy and has had a lot of discussion about it, and whose side are you on, and what is this movie's political stance. But the best part is, this movie doesn't actually take a political stance, as this movie is supposed to be from a reporter's point of view, where they're just reporting what they are seeing. There's no bias towards it. They let other people do that, and we as the audience are also doing the same thing. And there are many different angles that you could take when theorizing, what does this movie mean, and what is actually happening in this film? Is this possible? But this is the kind of film that I would love to go back and rewatch, because it is riveting, anxiety inducing, and it makes you feel so uncomfortable. And the performances of Kirsten Dunst and Jesse Plemons are excellent, as this married couple is one of the best married couples I think we've ever seen. Their acting is just really great in this movie, especially that one scene that Jesse Plemons is in is really terrifying to watch. So if you haven't seen Civil War yet, you should definitely check this out. At number 5, we have a comedy drama film that I had recently just watched. It wasn't on my radar, but that is the film called Thelma, which I thought was so good. You would think with a movie like this that is very simple, it's a small indie film, it's very lighthearted, it deals with old people, which is something, you know, my grandparents would enjoy, about this lady, and she gets scammed, and she wants to do everything herself without her family, and trying to prove something to herself. You think that could be a really cheesy and dumb concept, but this movie is very self-aware, and the performances here are great. It is hilarious. Everybody in my auditorium was having a great time watching this movie, but this movie is also not afraid to dive into the more darker and more realistic aspects about getting older and having so many health issues like dementia or just physical as well. This movie explores it in a really interesting way that I was not expecting them to do, and I found this movie to be a really well-balanced comedy drama film that has a ton of rewatch value. But if you haven't seen this film already, then definitely just go out and rent it, or try to go see it at your local theater if they're somehow playing it in a super limited release by the time that this video eventually comes out. Then definitely go for it, because I thought this movie was really great. At number 4, we have Love Lies Bleeding, which is a film that I was really excited for, especially with Kristen Stewart being in the lead role, as she's been going more of the indie route in the last few years or so, and I thought thought she was great in this film, especially because of her Academy Award nominated performance for Spencer. This is one of her next big films after, and I thought she was really great in this film. This film is very heavily inspired by Thelma and Louise, which I think is a fantastic movie, but it does it differently without feeling like it's just ripping those story and comedic and awesome elements from that movie, and it does something a lot different. It is brutal, it is violent, it is bloody, it absolutely goes for it without holding back. I didn't know anything about it going into it, and I left this film feeling very satisfied, but also surprised with all the different turns and story takes that this movie does go through. At number 3, I have Furiosa, a Mad Max saga, which is a prequel to Mad Max Fury Road, as I do have a review of this film on the channel. As you guys probably know, I love this movie, and I actually enjoyed this movie even more on the second watch, and I thought the pacing of this film was even faster. Anya Taylor-Joy is fantastic in this movie, as well as Chris Hemsworth, which I think is one of the best performances I have seen from him. The direction, the production design, the music is all fantastic here. It looks absolutely gorgeous on the big screen with its technical prowess from George Miller. And this movie does everything that you would want from a prequel film, and that's why I still believe it is one of the best prequel films of all time, as this year has been the year of great prequel movies, especially The First Omen. At number 2, I have Challengers, which was directed by Luca Guadagnino, as it stars Zendaya in the lead role. Luca Guadagnino is one of the best new directors of the 2010s, 2020s, as I've been diving through all of his filmography, as I find his films so fascinating, especially in the way that he handles romance, especially with films like Call Me By Your Name, which was excellent from 2017, and with this film also having romance and being a drama thriller type movie, he just does it once again, making a very interesting, well thought-provoking type of movie that actually has a great structure to it, where the story bounces around from different flashbacks and different moments in time, but all of these elements feel like they have to be the way they are to reveal certain story elements to the audience. The performances in this movie are excellent. I also love the use of product placement in this movie, where they actually got the product placement of the time period, which just shows like a lot of extra effort to make this movie better. And I also like the way that it's used, especially one scene where there's a lady that's eating Dunkin' Donuts and one of the characters is watching them eat the Dunkin', and there's just so much more than just like, oh wow, it's just, you know, Dunkin' Donuts here and we're advertising. There's more to the scene that I really enjoyed about that. And at number 1, this should not be a surprise to anybody who watched my review for this, and that is Dune Part 2, that also stars Zendaya and Timothée Chalamet. This is the second part of the first Dune book, which Dune Part 1 came out in 2021. We have been waiting for Dune Part 2 for quite some time, as it was a film that wasn't necessarily going to be made, because Warner Brothers didn't know if this movie was going to do well. It did, and they made Dune Part 2. Being able to be with the crowd of people that really want to watch this movie on the best screen format possible, the way it was intended to be, and everybody in the auditorium was just in awe of the film. No one was talking, no one was texting. Everybody in unison was just experiencing this amazing, phenomenal, well-made film that is definitely going to get Oscar nominations next year, and definitely a Best Picture one as well. This movie is incredible. It is definitely the better of the two halves of this adaptation of the first book. Technical aspects of this movie are jaw-dropping. The visual effects are absolutely stunning. It's some of the best visual effects work I have seen. I really hope they re-release this movie in IMAX when the Oscar nominations are announced, because I will definitely go on my way to rewatch this movie. So those are my top 10 favorite movies of 2024. Let me know down below in the comment section, what is your favorite movies of the year so far? And I can't wait to see when this list completely changes and I make a brand new list of the best movies of 2024 in the last week of December. So thank you guys so much for checking out this video, as I hope you guys subscribe to the channel so you can get more movie reviews and movie related content, as well as leaving a like on this video and ringing that notification bell so you never get to miss a brand new video. I'll see you guys at the movies.